Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unite Inside. I am so glad to have you here with me again, and I love you so much, and I'm very excited to share this with you, to talk to you about a very important topic. We're going to talk about setbacks. We're going to talk about things that hold us back, okay? And not just any things that hold us back. We're going to talk about setbacks from the inside, from parts of ourselves inside of us that are holding us back. What can you do? How can you get over this? Imagine if you want to move on with your life, you want to be happy, but you have an addiction. You are addicted to alcohol and you abuse it, and you don't want to abuse it anymore. You don't want to. You're tired of doing that. Or maybe you are procrastinating. You really, really want to work on your dreams so bad. But there's this part of you, there's this side of you that just doesn't want to, that just wants to lay back there and do nothing. And it feels very real that there is this push and pull between two parts of yourself. You want to do a certain thing, but then another urge comes up and it feels like it is pulling you in a different direction. And it feels like it's winning. And maybe you recognize that what you're doing is unhealthy. You recognize that whatever it is you're doing is in the way for your success. It is in the way of you becoming the person that you've always wanted to be. But you just, even though you can recognize that, and even though you have a desire for change, you still don't change. Unfortunately, it's still hard for you. Unfortunately, it is almost impossible. You feel as though you are dragging this part of yourself down and forcing it to do this thing that you know is best for you, and it's almost like this part of you just doesn't care, or just doesn't feel like it even wants to do it. It doesn't even feel like it's going to benefit it. It has a completely different perspective. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because that is true. This part of you does have a completely different perspective. And if you really want to set yourself free and no longer experience any setbacks from yourself, and also whatever we call self-sabotage, even though it doesn't really exist, because we never do anything to sabotage our life. Whenever there is a part of us trying to do something, it is always because it knows or it thinks that it is protecting us. Okay, because that's how our nervous system works. That's how our body is set up for. It is also our mind, and basically its job is to protect us. So that's why you might be experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing, that it looks like it's setting you back. It looks like it's holding you from going in the direction of what you want. So how can you solve this problem? Okay, how can you feel free? How can you free yourself from this issue? Well, if you really would like to do that, you're going to have to take a completely different approach. Not the approach that you used to get. Like, for example, just discipline yourself, or just change, just get your butt to the gym, or just try to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. It isn't just about that, actually. That's why a lot of people can discipline themselves and stop themselves from doing that thing that they don't want to do, but they end up doing it again. It happens again and again and again and again. You know why? It's because there is an underneath issue. There is some part of the problem that we're not looking at, that we're not recognizing. And that is what I'm here to open your eyes up to. I want you to know that if you are struggling against a part of yourself, that is a part of yourself that is valid and also important, and it is probably talking to you from the inside out about a certain topic that you are ignoring about yourself. Okay? And you're ignoring that, and you're not providing yourself of that validation and also just presence and recognition of this issue. When we are experiencing a certain experience and we go through trauma or pain, what happens is that a part of us gets scarred, okay? And it fragments, and it starts to hold its own opinion, its own perspective about us and our life. And then it starts to think, what can I do next time to not go into this issue again? Let me give you an example. Let's say that you were someone that really wanted to be in a committed, happy relationship, and you have gotten with someone and they broke your heart, and they showed you that if you stay in a committed relationship, that you will be hurt and neglected. And because you have attachment issues, you tend to get stuck in situations like that. And so a part of you took it upon itself to decide that it will never let you actually get into a committed relationship, which means it has developed a fear of commitment. And that's why you always feel that you want to go into a relationship, you want to be happy, you want to be one with somebody, but this part of you just always makes excuses, stops you from giving love to this person, even goes ahead to neglect the other person. And it is all so that it can protect you. But if we don't look at this part of us and why it's doing what it's doing, we will never be able to release ourselves from this pattern. Why? It's because this part of us is holding some type of a pain or fear that we have to release first before we can move on. And let me explain more. If you really want to be set free from any addiction or obsession or even bad habit that you have in your life or pattern that you feel that you want to just get rid of, instead of just blindly going in with those people that tell us, oh, just be disciplined, just stop doing it. What if you stopped for a minute and took your attention, your awareness, and actually placed it on this part of you and what it's trying to really tell you, what it's trying to express to you, and look at that as valid. Because as long as you're not looking at that issue that you have within yourself as valid, you are going to ignore it and you won't heal it within yourself, which will cause you to later on experience this setback from what you want to experience, from what you want to go through. You want to go through a beautiful relationship. You want to be successful in your work, for example, but you feel this part of you that is stopping you. And so the first thing I want you to do, if you really want to release yourself from this issue, is give yourself full attention. Give this part of you full recognition. Go meditate and truly focus on the feelings that this part of you is basically expressing to you. Okay? And also, not only do I want you to do that, I want you to get a little bit educated about your setback. Why is it that you don't want to do this thing? Why is it that you don't want to move forward with it? And try to completely become aware of yourself, of the way you act whenever you're outside and you find yourself engaging in that pattern. Try to become very aware and notice yourself while you are doing that pattern, engaging in that pattern, playing out that pattern, and then just take mental notice of it and journal everything that you have discovered. Also, I need you to take notice of your emotions, everything that comes up, how hard it is for this part of you to let you do this thing, how hard it is, like, just to get familiar with this feeling, with the fear, because you have to focus on it first if you want to completely release yourself from that setback. The reason why is because for as long as you're ignoring it and not treating it as an actual thing that you have to, as a valuable problem, that a part of you has, because a part of you, it is still a part of you. And that's why you don't feel like you can be free. It's because you're not in alignment with that part. You have disconnected from that part, and you have just let that part be experiencing that pain on its own. And that's why now you're suffering from this problem. It's because a lot of times we are so lazy. We don't want to hold space for our feelings, so we just ignore them, but they come up in other ways. They come up as patterns, they come up as hurts, they come up as triggers. And we then think, oh my God, we have such a problem of triggers, or we have such a problem of, we have this issue. That issue is an actual underneath wound that you've been ignoring. So I want you to completely drop the idea of dragging yourself into doing what yourself doesn't want to do. And instead, I want you to pick up a different idea, which is, I am going to go in alignment with this part of me. I am going to learn about it. I'm not saying you have to just give up to this part of you. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're going to take charge of this part. We're going to look at it and see its behavior and see why does it tend to go this way and that way. And we're going to take some notes. We're going to meditate on it, feel those emotions, and identify them. And I also want you to understand yourself and that part. Understand how hard it is for that part of you to let you do this thing and validate it, and actually almost like get on with that fear that you have. Like, what do I mean with that? Like, instead of letting this part be protective of you, just be protective of it. Find out, what does it really need? What does this part need for it to feel safe with me, for it to feel ready to stop this pattern itself? Because that's what you're supposed to do. I promise you, and I swear to you, I'm telling you this because from my own life, this is how I released myself from what we call self-sabotage. This is how I released myself from it. I have tended to this part of me, and I tended to its needs. And I listened very carefully to see, what is it really scared of? And I realized something. I realized that in my own experience, this part of me was scared of giving itself up. That's why it didn't want to give to other people. I had a part of me that was very resistant to being a giver. Even though I was a giver in other aspects of my life, there was a certain aspect where I just couldn't get myself to open my heart enough to do it. And it was because I actually had this major fear of being taken advantage of being used. And it came from an actual experience of being used, an actual hurt. And it was very valid that I have actually developed this fear of not being able to open my heart enough to give in a certain aspect of my life. And so because of that, I have also discovered that because I'm a people pleaser, back then that part of me was scared that as soon as I'm gonna open up the opportunity, or the, let's say, possibility of me being able to give in that aspect of life, that it's going to also be an opportunity for the other person to use me, and also for the other person to completely take advantage of me, considering that I have a problem saying no. And so because of that, now I knew why that part of me wasn't letting me be open in that aspect of my life. It was because it was scared of the fact that I always, back then, used to give up on myself and not set boundaries. So what did I do? Because I knew that that was what that part of me was scared of, I actually started exercising my boundaries more. I also asked this part of me, which aspect of life do you feel that I still don't say no about, that I still don't have strict boundaries about? And that's why you still have this fear. And this part of me told me, yes, this is where I see that you still don't say no, and I have made those changes, and I promise you, and I'm literally telling you that this part of me completely calmed down. I was able to give in that aspect of life. I was able to be open enough to do what I wanted to do. And it happened very effortlessly. That part of me calmed down. So instead of dragging or having this war with yourself, instead just take it as a part of you, because it is a part of you. Take its best interest as if it is your best interest. A lot of us, we think, because we sometimes let our ego be in the driver's seat of our life, we think that we have it all figured out, that we know exactly what to do. We can sometimes decide that certain feelings or certain fears are not valid, and because of that, parts of us decide to act on their own, and that's where we feel that we're not one with ourselves. We feel this conflict, this war within ourselves, that we're pushing and pulling against ourselves, and we just can't be in alignment. And so first you have to be in alignment with it, understand it, and then give it what it wants. Do your best for it to feel protected, because that is mostly what it wants. Same for anything else. The part of you that is addicted to alcohol, it might actually be just scared of feeling loneliness or feeling grief or pain. So if you can get it to meet up with more people, or whatever it is that you can do that is different, you will start to notice a difference in your addiction intensity. You're gonna realize that it's going down. You don't have those cravings as often. You don't have those urges as often. And you're gonna be able to actually have control over your life in the best way possible. Okay, so I love you so much, and I hope that you have enjoyed this beautiful video and that you have benefited from it. I love you so much, and I hope that you treat yourself really good. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.